Malgré l'époque où l'on vit, où on est très sollicité par toutes sortes de choses du quotidien, il y a quand même un besoin fondamental d'ancrer sa réflexion dans l'histoire et dans la culture. Et ça, c'est ce qui m'inspire plus largement. Je crois que les choses que l'on ne connaît pas sont les plus intéressantes, forcément, puisqu'on ne les connaît pas encore. Et puis, c'est plein de potentiel, c'est plein de décisions à prendre, c'est plein de choses à maîtriser. Et ça, c'est très excitant. Je crois que c'est le propre de l'artiste visuel, c'est d'être en quête permanente de quelque chose de neuf. Alors, soit c'est du neuf qui vient de soi, ou bien c'est du neuf qui vient aussi du monde. Et là, le monde entier, donc l'histoire entière du monde, est à disposition. Et c'est extraordinaire.
We're live. We're live. I agree. I agree. Everybody, the the entire show should be Green Dragon Gossip, and I'm seeing everybody in the chat saying they can't hear you, and I wonder what that's about. Can you guys hear me? Chat room, can you hear me? Because I think you should be hearing Cliff. Okay, hold on. Hold on, guys. Let me fix this. Let me fix this. SW output capture. Hold on. Let me fix this. Wow, it was just working like 2 seconds ago. Audio. Mic auxiliary 2. Clifford.
Hello, how are you?
Can you hear Cliff
Hello.
now?
Hello. Can anybody hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Maybe you can hear me now? Justin, you can hear me because I
Chat room. Respond.
Let me ask. Let me sign
All
on
right,
to the.
Cliff, You're working.
It's
Hello.
working fine now. Thank you. I'm telling you. Okay, what? The reason why it was so funny, and I wonder if we're going to play this back on YouTube. It might sound even funnier when we're on YouTube. But I'm joining the live chat with YouTube right now.
Yeah. Hey, so you guys like how quickly we resolved that? Welcome to Torn Tuesday. This is your weekly dose of all things Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I'm Justin. That's Cliff. That's Cliff. To my right.
I'm back. And yes, and I was just making a joke because off camera I was saying, don't you think the people deserve a little bit of levity today? And Justin unanimously agreed in his very open-handed way. And he said, yes, the people need some levity.
The people need levity,
today.
And levity requires your silence, Cliff.
That's probably true.
Hello from Kansas. I've seen people in the chat room from South Africa and from Kansas. That is basically the two spectrums of the Earth right now. It's great to see you all. It's great to see you all. Thank you for putting up with our jiggery pokery. Did you guys hear the John Howe video at the beginning? Let's see some people in the chat room. I see you on Twitter, on Facebook, on Periscope, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. Scott Davis, great to see you. Adelaide, Australia is in the house. Hey, Emma, that's awesome. I love Adelaide. But you know what's better than Adelaide? Alice Springs, Australia. D Woodlands is in Australia. Tammy's from Virginia. Louise is in Rio de Janeiro, and that is a perfect segue into our very first topic. Rio de Janeiro is in Brazil, and we have on good word that a new cast member is joining the chat. Not our chat, joining the show. I'm sorry, joining the show.
Well, that would be wonderful if they did join our chat. But you're talking about the Amazon Studios show announcing new cast members, right? Tell us the scoop.
They haven't announced anything, right?
Oh,
Amazon has been frustratingly quiet, haven't they, Cliff?
yes, they have, to all levels. I gotta say, wow, that's great to have news of rumors. Even maybe it's not confirmed yet, but it's nice to have new casting announcements. What's the name of this person? Tell me, Justin.
The name of this person.
Looking it up? Okay, he's looking it up. Ladies and gentlemen, it's so good to have you here on the live show.
So Kaya Scodelario. We are looking at her in...
We've mentioned her name before, yes.
Yeah, we're looking at her right now in Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, the most recent Pirates movie. She was also a main actor in Maze Runner. I was going to say Blade Runner. Maze Runner. This is Kaya Scodelario. I think I'm saying that right now. Scodelario. She is a Brazilian actress that starred in the Maze Runner and the most recent Pirates of the Caribbean movie. She has flown to New Zealand for a project that is super secret, and that is supposedly going to take a year of her time. She's moved with her young child and her family to New Zealand. This is a wonderful casting. You guys, she just looks the part just from Pirates of the Caribbean. Her acting abilities are amazing from Maze Runner and several other. And the rumor is this is Galadriel's mother.
Galadriel's mother?
No, not Galadriel. Arwen's mother.
Arwen's mother. Everyone in the chat room and on the YouTube chat seems to be ahead of you. They're like, yeah, this is Arwen's mom.
She looks like Arwen's mom.
Her name is Celebrian.
Celebrian is the name of the character. This would make, and due to her stature as an actress, on the scale of leading Pirates of the Caribbean and leading a Maze Runner, she has millions and millions of followers on social media. She has got the chops. She has got the looks. She is Celebrian, Arwen's mother. Cliff, what does this mean? What does this mean? This means that this is possibly the biggest actress so far, the most famous, the most successful, the biggest actress, the biggest name attached to the show, which means if she really is playing Celebrian, this show's main character is Arwen's mother. Cliff, what does that mean?
That means that we're going to get even better things than that. We're going to get the entire family. The entire family. We're talking about Eladan and El Rohir, the twins. We're talking about Arwen. And we're talking about all the other elves who were involved in the founding of Rivendell. Do you know what it ultimately means? I suspect now, if this is true, that much of our narrative thrust of the first season, maybe into the second season, that narrative thrust is what happens after the war of the elves and Sauron, after they have the war, after Celebrimbor is killed, after the forging of the rings, and Imladris, known as Rivendell, is founded. That's going to be stuff that we can look forward to in second and third season. This means, perhaps, that they really are taking the long view into how they can get these characters connected and established in the second age to all these familiar, wonderful places that we know in the Third Age stories that we're already so familiar with.
So what does this mean for the timeline? If we were thinking about that Amazon officially announced that we're going to Numenor, and we're playing in the Second Age, where does Celebrian fit in the timeline? And does this mean, what does this mean? If she is part of the pilot, if she's part of the first season?
Well, that means, hold on now. No, I'll tell you that answer in a minute, but look at the way that people in the chat are responding.
Yeah, but I'm asking you, what does this mean for the timeline of the show? Because you're talking about Rivendell and Ladris is far away. If she is in the first episodes of the first season, what does this mean for the show? Where does that place us?
Well, that places us at a time, perhaps it could be centuries before the establishing of Rivendell. Indeed, Elrond, half-elven, had quite a career in his life way, way, way before the events that led to, how Rivendell was founded. And, he was the herald for Gil-galad. And if it means we're going to have Gil-galad and, we're looking at Elrond's earlier career, it might be the point where he establishes a relationship with Celebrian. It might be way before the children are born.
Is Celebrian in action, in play, in the story before the rings are forged?
Not so much. No, not so much.
Is it...
Her presence in the stories is known well after the founding of Rivendell and after the founding of Lothlorien, which were done with the powers of the two elven rings that Galadriel and Elrond would later have. Later. Okay, let's assume that the Amazon series is going to begin the story before the Rings of Power are forged. That in itself is an assumption, but it's a pretty basic assumption that all of us, millions of us, have been going on that assumption the whole time.
Well,
that
we know
they're going to enter this story before the rings are forged.
We know that.
And if you're looking at Elrond and his life before meeting with Celebrimbor, before all these things happened, then you'd go back to the time when they lived in Lindon, when they lived near the Blue Mountains, closer to the Grey Havens, and he was a herald for Gil-galad. So you could go much further back on this storyline.
Well, we know that
again,
films and television...
They can have flashbacks. They can have flashbacks that jump thousands of years at a time. They do it all the time.
No, I'm saying...
Peter Jackson did it.
No flashbacks. I am saying that it is appropriate for films to compress time. Look, Aragorn is 85 years old in the movies.
Yes.
They don't. Yes. And he only mentions it once in the extended edition, because if he mentioned that in the theatrical, they would have lost their audience, right? So I think it's okay for the TV show, Lord of the Rings TV show, to compress time and move people around, right? So let me ask you this, as the author of The People's Guide to J.R.R. Tolkien and the writer and producer of Ringers, Lord of the Fans, would you be okay with the compression of time and the movement of characters so that Celebrian is involved in the story while the rings are being forged and while they're being distributed?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we all knew this years ago, that if they were going to bring in characters like her, that they would be making up things from whole cloth. Because we only know a few little bullet points in the appendix that Tolkien literally states about her. We don't know too much.
So I'm looking at
what we do know, allow me, what we do know involves a later stage, much later on in her life, when she was attacked and kidnapped by orcs. And then she was rescued by her twin sons. And that misadventure caused her to leave on one of the ships from the Grey Havens, leaving early. And she left her husband and her daughter and her sons behind. And all that stuff is not in the Second Age. It's not in the Second Age at all. That's like later on. But that's the only really like kernel of story that Professor Tolkien spends his time talking about. So whatever we learn about her earlier life, it will be invented from whole cloth by the writers of the show.
And true to Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien famously encouraged this. He famously, in his letters, J.R.R. Tolkien said that he had built the foundation and he had built the structural pillars, and he encouraged people to explore these characters and these worlds and these stories, other minds, other creative minds. So this is all true to Tolkien. Whatever they do with Celebrian is true to Tolkien.
Well, as Tom Shippey once said famously in a German podcast that got him in a lot of trouble, evidently, he said that the basic plot and timeline and histories of Middle-earth cannot be altered. They can't change things around, like when, Numenorians...
They can't change things, but they can compress time, and come on. They can move...
Everybody does. Yeah,
Everybody
as I was
does.
saying, they can't change the things that actually happen, like Sauron tricks Celebrimbor as Anatar, and the rings are forged, and the wars that they fight over it are wars and sieges over a long period of time that are fought, and ultimately it leads to Sauron being captured and taken to Numenor.
So
and he eventually leads to the downfall of Numenor, and that eventually leads to the flat Earth being changed into a round planet, and everything cataclysmically changing on Arda. And so they cannot mess with those things. Those are the things they cannot mess with.
Does this actress imply that we are playing in PJ's universe?
Not necessarily. I can see people in the YouTube, the friends who we're following here in the YouTube chat live right now, and I can see them. Hello, Spartan and Sean and Irwana, and certainly.
The original intent was to play in Peter Jackson's cinematic universe, and the casting they keep doing is casting young versions of the actors from PJ's movies. And if you're going to cast Arwen's mother, you can do no better than Kaya Scodelario.
Excellent. I'm hearing a correction in the live chat that she's from Britain, and she's British national.
She's Brazilian, who grew up in Britain and became well known in the British stage and acting scene. But she is 100% bilingual, and I believe she has dual
citizenship.
I believe she has dual citizenship. So let's go with some of the comments here. Again, we just addressed PG's movieverse. I think we're still playing in Peter Jackson's movieverse. All of the casting from even Robert Aramayo has, from Game of Thrones, rumored to be playing Elrond, a young Elrond, who was originally cast Will Poulter, who is a spitting image to Hugo Weaving. I mean, so let's just get that clear, right? They cast two actors to play a young Elrond that looked like Hugo Weaving. Come on, we're playing in the same universe. Let's go.
I would assume so. Wait, another question about whether they're playing in the same universe is, didn't we hear in the way back when that part of their license was including licensing existing designs and armor and concepts and fabrications 100%. And
100%.
From Weta? The stuff that Weta has designed for the 6 movies of Middle-earth that they've done already.
The reason the Amazon show is costing $1 billion is because Amazon is paying off everybody that they need to pay off to shore up all the rights creatively, literally, publishing, creative, licensing. That's the biggest chunk of the budget. We got other comments in the chat saying, I thought Sauron was the main character of the show. But Sauron is the main character of the show because the show is called Lord of the Rings. And the movies are called Lord of the Rings. Sauron is the Lord of the Rings. But as far as the main characters that us as the audience will be introduced to Sauron with and by, and befriended, and be betrayed by, that is a big actress. She is a big actress. Huge actress. She's the right age, the right look, the right time. She's hugely popular for Maze Runner and Pirates of the Caribbean. There was another comment. Here that she was great.
I would also, yeah, she is great. In Pirates, although that is the one Pirates of the Caribbean film. That's the only one that I really don't care for. Is number 4. on Stranger Tides. That's just my personal taste. I thought the script was a mess, really. But when they went to Pirates movie number 5, Dead Men Tell No Tales, they very smartly took the focus to Barbossa, and they made the entire movie about Geoffrey Rush and Barbossa's character, and that was a very smart move, and that was why the 5th movie for Pirates was much, much better in terms of narrative, in terms of story. That's just one man's opinion, whatever. We'll get over that. But let's go back to talking about Sauron is the lead character.
Well, real quick,
from what we know so far.
Look,
we hope that Anatar is the main character.
The show is called Lord of the Rings, and it's based in the Second Age, and Sauron is the Lord of the Rings. He's literally the title character. There's no debate to have. The last thing I'll say about Kaya Scodelario...
Until such time that Amazon announces a new title. When Amazon announces a new title of the series,
I don't think they're going to. They're not going to. They're not going to.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
What are they going to call this? The elves? Like the boys? No. They're going to call it Lord of the Rings. They paid $1 billion for Lord of the Rings. They're going to call it Lord of the Rings. Kaya Scodelario. People are saying, did she bunk this? No. I think Amazon scolded her and told her, you've got to clean this up. You've said too much. And here's what happened. The day before she jumped on a plane, she posted on her Instagram with over 3 million followers that she was having a going-away party. And
I saw that picture.
Her friends,
I saw that picture on the gram. Yeah.
Her friends, not her, but her friends posted a Photoshop of her on the Lord of the Rings poster. They Photoshopped her face on the old Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings poster and said, "Enjoy New Zealand," you know. So her friends basically outed her. They tagged her in the post. She is friends with Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones. She's friends with Lily Collins, who played Edith Tolkien in the feature film
the movie
Tolkien. And they have both those two actresses have been very active in the comments on Kaya's Instagram. So the fact that she has been talking with and befriending Lily Collins, who played Edith Tolkien, and Maisie Williams, who was the best part, one of the best parts of Game of Thrones. I mean, and now she's going to New Zealand, and her friends photoshopped her on a Lord of the Rings poster, and suddenly, like, you know, now she's backtracking, like, oh, I'm not really in it. Yeah, you are. She absolutely is. She deleted posts tagging Lord of the Rings. She used the hashtag Lord of the Rings on a post, and then she deleted it like hours later. She's in the show. I'm telling you. And Amazon just caught wind of it and was like, no. Don't be posting that stuff. We're too secret. So Daniel says, love you, Justin, but this is a stretch. People asked if she was in New Zealand. She said she was flying to New Zealand. Her best friend said she was flying to New Zealand. Her other best friend said she moved with her young child for a year to New Zealand. Is she in Canada right now? The other rumor has, that segues into the other rumor right now, is that part of Amazon's $1 billion Lord of the Rings, as we know, when Peter Jackson made his film, there were upwards of 5 units filming at the same time. Is that correct, Cliff? There were 5 units with multiple assistant directors? Yes.
Probably more.
You guys
but they had a converted parking lot, and they were calling it like a third, or second unit A or B. Yeah,
So rumors are that there is a second unit currently in Canada filming exterior shots in the wilderness of Canada.
Interesting rumor. Really, shooting in the wilderness of Canada. That could be very interesting. Attention now to Ram Z there in the YouTube chat. He missed the beginning. What was John Howe saying in that clip that you played?
John Howe that video was posted just a couple weeks ago. John Howe is in his house in Switzerland. He lives in
saw
Switzerland.
That where he's quietly sketching.
He's completely fluent in Swiss language. and that is his
He was,
home.
I believe he was speaking French in that video, unless I'm mistaken.
Malgré l'époque où l'on
Anyone,
vit, où on
anyone
est
want to
très
comment?
sollicité
Is
par
saw
toutes
that.
sortes de
Anyways,
choses
Swiss
du
French.
côté.
So anyway, I wanted to show you guys that because it's John Howe, and we can watch him painting, and we'll show that again at the end of the show because
Oh, good.
because
Good.
who
Okay.
doesn't want to watch John Howe paint? I will, but I wanted to talk about this video because John Howe painting at his house in Switzerland in August of 2020 means John Howe is not on set of his dearly beloved Lord of the Rings as they are filming. And Cliff,
That's
if
right.
I remember correctly, in the
That's
appendices,
exactly what that means.
both John Howe and Alan Lee, both said that they made an extra effort to always be on set when they were filming Lord of the Rings because they enjoyed drawing and thriving and creating and just being in Middle Earth.
That was part of the work they were doing, was by osmosis, keeping people open to each other. They were not all siloed. People working for Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit film trilogy were not individually or departmentally siloed and separated from one another. They had a much more permeable, very open and permeable working environment, completely different than the rumors we're hearing about what's happening at Amazon. And it does seem very clear that John Howe is not in the same workspace with them. He is not in the same country with them. And therefore, it does not appear, unless he's scanning images electronically and sending them overseas on the interwebs, I don't see him working in this permeable, open forum atmosphere where his work and his designs are being utilized by the production company. It leads to a number of questions and suspicions, which we can banter about, but we really don't know what the heck is going on because they haven't told us.
You know what I think? I don't think John Howe's involved in Lord of the Rings. I think they sent a camera crew to do that pitch video, and he drew them a map for the video, but I don't think John Howe is involved in the show, and that is a huge red flag.
Yeah, it is a red flag.
John Howe would want to be on set. John Howe, if they are shooting in Canada, in the remote wilderness with the craggy rocks of the northern seas, John Howe would be there, and he would be sketching Numenor. And he has said that Second Age Numenor is one of his most favorite fantasy locations. And you better believe John Howe, if he was on the show, he would be there. He would be on set. He would be designing.
You know what? Further to that, why wouldn't part of the marketing campaign of the series be constant images of looking at John Howe sketching things in the wilderness while they were filming for the series? I mean, why aren't they giving us that? That would be exactly the kind of stuff that would get us over the moon, excited to see either or both Alan Lee and John Howe sketching and working together on location in these magnificent spaces where they plan on shooting stuff for the series. But we're not seeing that. We're not seeing that at all. Quickly, I'm going to respond to the question that Ram Z had in the YouTube chat. Is Weta involved in the project? No. Currently, there's no contract and no announcement from anybody at Weta Studios or Weta Digital, nothing from them announcing their involvement. There's nothing from Amazon Studios announcing their involvement. The answer is no, as far as we know.
Jill in the chat asks, is it possible that Howe is remaining in Switzerland during COVID? Honestly, let's talk about that. One of the most safest countries in the world to be in during COVID is, Cliff?
New Zealand.
If you were worried about COVID, what country would you want to be in?
New Zealand.
If you're John Howe and you built a career and a life around Lord of the Rings and they're building sets for Lord of the Rings, where would you want to be?
New Zealand. That's the answer. Let me answer these last two questions very quickly. Do we know how much of Glaurung the dragon we will see? The answer is 0. Glaurung will not appear in the second age. He was in the first age.
I don't think so.
They're not going to cover that in this series. And the last question was,
I think there
how
will
much
be a
of-
dragon, though.
oh, maybe, yeah.
By
Maybe
season
other
4.
dragons.
Season 4, maybe.
Sure, we can
Sure.
have plenty of other
Yeah.
dragons, but not Glaurung in
Drake,
the show.
a fire drake, maybe.
The last question is, will we see anything of the sons of Húrin? And the answer is no. That's all Silmarillion stuff. If there's a reference,
look.
if there's a reference, well, let me finish. Bloody hell, let me finish. If there's any reference to stuff like that, it will be in flashback. Little flashbacks they do wherever. Now, go ahead, Justin. Go ahead.
Well, you said Hurin, and I thought you said Durin. And
No,
that brings us to
Húrin.
our next thing.
Húrin.
After
Sons of Húrin.
Sons of Hurin is different than Sons of Durin. Durin
That is
spoke.
different.
Durin spoke is the thing. Dylan Smith posted this on Instagram just a week ago, and
I love
look
this guy.
at that.
Look at this guy.
Dylan Smith is look. If y'all look at this, come on. He is absolutely playing a dwarf. He's absolutely playing a dwarf. So
He sure is. Boy, that's cool. That is
did
so
he
cool.
sneak this from the set? No, actually, this is an old photo from a TV show he did a couple years ago about Neanderthal cavemen. So he posted a photo on Instagram in a dwarven makeup, but that is a Neanderthal makeup done for a previous project. Now, Cliff, why would an actor like that, who is not allowed to post anything to Instagram because he's on Lord of the Rings, why would he post that? Do you think maybe memories were triggered because he's currently getting made up to look like that again? Why would you post that unflattering photo?
I think
he's going through the same experience right now.
I think that was posted with studio approval, and they want everybody to know that there are dwarves. They just want people to know that there are dwarves in this story, and we knew that because I've been assuming that the early stage of season 1 is going to be set where Celebrimbor and the elves of Holland are making great friendships and have a strong relationship with a thriving economic neighboring community in Moria. And it's not even called Moria. At that point in time, that word does not exist. The elves don't call it that. It's called Khazad-dûm. And I'm telling you, this is where I want to see lots of elves and dwarves. And as I've talked about many times,
get a ring?
Yeah, of course. Well, does Durin the Deathless get a ring? No. I believe that the first Durin the Deathless, I don't believe he was around at the time when these rings were forged at all. No. No, I believe the first Durin of the Longbeards of the House of Durin, if I'm not mistaken, and I have to look it up, but he died many, many thousands of years before the Second Age.
But there are 7 rings that need to go to the dwarves.
That is correct.
And Durin's heir, which is Durin the Third, maybe? By the time we're in the Age of Numenor, I believe we're in Durin the Third.
All I got to do is look right here. Here I am in my copy of the Silmarillion. And let me take a look at this and see what I can find. Here's the dwarven family tree right here in the back of the book, actually.
But we have 7 rings to give to the dwarves, which means dwarves could potentially be a significant part of the show. A full
Indeed, as I was saying before you interrupted me, I'm very much looking forward to the relationship that Galadriel has with these dwarves, because she has a particular interest in making gold, jewelry, and craftsmanship, because she is related to Fëanor. She is related to that bloodline of Noldorin elves who take particular skill in their craftsmanship and the work of fine arts with metals and gemstones. And Galadriel has this thing in her heart because of who she is, because of her bloodline relationship with Fëanor. that makes her have strong, bonded relationships with these gifted dwarves who are her neighbors in the realm of Holland. And these dwarves are like, wow, this elf lady is like the coolest. She knows all about forging and how to set gemstones into crowns and swords and jewelry. And she's like this amazing person who's from that line of great crafts. Nobody talks about this, but think about the file of Galadriel. How did she manage to use her power and the knowledge that she learned from the first age back in this storyline? How did she learn how to do that kind of craftsmanship that she could capture the light of Eärendil, capture it inside this beautiful water in a file and have it protected and sealed so that it could not break, so that it could not be shattered, so that it would not open up and fall apart? I mean, this is amazing. And she did this and she gifted it to someone very prominently in the Fellowship of the Ring. And I'm telling you, looking at Galadriel as a character is an open doorway for us to have a rich and contextualized narrative between the kingdoms of the elves and their friendship with the dwarves, so we understand their estrangement. Like later on, when we see that the dwarves and elves really dislike each other, and there's a lot of racial bias and this horrible, horrible distaste. Well, it wasn't like that. It was not like that before. And in the book, Legolas and Gimli say, those were happier times, because the only thing you had to say standing outside the gate was friend. Look at the facts of it. You stood at the gate, and Galadriel, played by this other actress, stand right there at the gate of Khazad-dûm, and all she has to say is friend, and it will open the door for her. And for us to see a younger version of, quote unquote, a younger version of Galadriel be able to do that, stand there at the west gate of Moria and say Melon in perfect Elvish, and then she goes to see her friends, and she's greeted there, and she gets to hang out with her buddies and her friends and talk about ring making and craftsmanship. This is going to be some juicy, good stuff if the writer's room on the show pay attention to the details of what these characters are and their background. Her spiritual kinship, Galadriel's spiritual kinship, and by bloodline, is to none other than the bad boy of the Silmarillion himself, Feanor, the guy who made the Silmarils. So when we get to see these dwarves, I'm glad that Amazon is showing us, the character actor here has got his dwarf makeup. We should understand that there's a lot of background between the elves and the dwarves. And here comes Sauron. And Sauron is going to be probably the great disruptor between these dwarves. See, there he is in his makeup.
He's a
All
great
these dwarves
deceiver. Sauron is the great deceiver.
Yeah, to see Sauron as Anatar come in and screw everything up and ruin everything and all the goodwill between the race of the dwarves and the elves, and to take Celebrimbor's natural curiosity and for Celebrimbor to lose his way because Anatar is the great seductor. This is going to be
the greatest.
Pure. It's pure Tolkien. They don't have to go too far astray. But now that we've got Celebrian, who's Arwen's mother, I'm telling you, we can also reasonably expect in later seasons they have all the possible threads to have Elrond and Celebrian continue their life, develop their relationship, and then after the war of elves and Sauron, and maybe even after Sauron is taken prisoner by the Númenóreans, then we get to see something of how Elrond and his people worked to create Imladris. And we can look forward to that in later seasons.
If you just joined us on the show, I see a bunch of people jumping into the show. Welcome to Torn Tuesday. You are watching Kaya Scodelario, the newest actress that we believe is on Lord of the Rings. She recently posted and then quickly deleted photoshops of her on Lord of the Rings. She recently posted and then deleted that she was flying to New Zealand, moving with her 3-year-old child to New Zealand for a year. She can be seen here in the most recent Pirates of the Caribbean movie, Kaya Scodelario. She was also seen in Maze Runner. That was her big feature film debut. And if she really is in Lord of the Rings, which all signs point to yes, that is Arwen's mother, Celebrian. Celebrian. I don't know how you
Calabrian.
say it.
I want to acknowledge Erwana in the chat, who says that the 7 kindreds of the dwarves were given the 7 rings. This is from Tolkien, and she's correct in saying that Durin's folk, and then the Firebeards, the Broad Beams, Iron Fists, Stiff Beards, Blacklocks, and Stonefoots. I will repeat that. Durin's folk, Firebeards, Broad Beams, Iron Fists, Stiff Beards, Blacklocks, and Stonefoots. The names, the actual names of the bearers of the rings, were not given. So those given names of who got those
So
rings.
let's bring up
But those are the different tribes.
Let's
the
bring up
different
that
clans
photo
of the dwarves.
of Dylan Smith
Mhm.
in makeup. What are the
Yes.
4? What are the groups of dwarves?
The 7. Well, the House of Durin, they were called Longbeards. Now, even though Erwana did not mention that, I'm familiar that the 7 kindreds of the dwarves were the Durin's folk. They're called the Longbeards. The next group, the Firebeards. Then the Broad Beams, followed by the Iron Fists. And the 5th group, after Iron Fists, group number 5, would be the Stiff Beards. Number 6, Blacklocks, referring to their hair and their beards, Blacklocks. And then the 7th kindreds of dwarves would be the Stonefoots. They reminded me of very Hobbit style names.
Well,
but that nomenclature is the 7 houses of the dwarves.
The other reason that I think Dylan Smith did not post this by accident, even if this was from an earlier project, is Cliff, as you know, and as we all know, we've all watched the appendices, that latex makeup that you need to put on the dwarves, and the pace of production for television means you need actors that have hopefully worked with prosthetic makeup before, that are comfortable with it and are not allergic to it, like John Rhys Davies was. No one wants to experience what John Rhys Davies did under the latex makeup, right?
It was really, really bad.
So here you have an actor, Dylan Smith, who just looks chiseled already without the beard. He looks like he could be a dwarf lord that is taken by the ring. The other thing I want to mention, Cliff, and we should get into this on a different episode, but
yes,
the stereotype of the dwarves, they dug too deep and they got too greedy. That is a result of the corruption of the rings. The dwarves were not greedy, not too greedy, and not too deep. They were not too greedy until Sauron's rings exacerbated their worst tendencies.
That could be a fertile discussion for an entire separate episode. Yes, and that theorizing along that line is to take a look at the relative success and failure of Sauron's overall plan with the rings, because with certain cases of the rings, the 9 for the mortal men, it worked exceptionally well, and in the case for the dwarves, it worked in a really half-assed, marginal way. And in the case of the 3 elves, it did not work at all. Game over, Sauron. It was a total fail on that level. You failed that level, Sauron.
What do you mean?
So, because the 3 rings were not tainted by him, and they were removed by the people who wore them, and they were hidden away, so that Sauron could never find them, or touch them, or interfere with them. And then by the time Sauron lost his 1 ring, and Isildur chopped that finger off, at that point in time, the 3 elven rings were still hidden, and Sauron never knew, because as you know, he never got his 1 ring back. Sauron never got his ring back, and therefore never had the chance to seek out the other 3 rings that were being used at that time by Elrond and Galadriel and Gandalf against him in the late stage of the Third Age. So I'm saying we could have that conversation about how the dwarven rings corrupted the hearts of the dwarves to a marginal point or to a middle stage, but not fully, not completely corrupted the hearts of the dwarves the way it clearly did with the 9 mortal men.
Huh.
But I mean, it's an overall discussion we could have about whether Sauron's grand design for making all of these Horcruxes, the idea that J.K. Rowling completely lifted that idea, as much as Tolkien leaned into the idea from other elements of Norse and Icelandic mythology and heraldic poetry. So it does happen from time to time. But yeah, I don't think that Sauron's entire plan with the magic rings could be credited as more than maybe a 35% success rate in the end. That's about it, really. That's just one man. That's one man's opinion. That's all.
But why do you say that?
I just explained that to you over 10 minutes. Why?
35%? Wait, there's 19 rings to be distributed.
And the ones that were distributed to the elves were a failure for Sauron's plan. The ones distributed to the dwarves were mostly a failure, distributed to Sauron's plan, and he lost his main ring. He lost his main mode of operating his whole plan. He lost it. It was taken from him. So ultimately, the only part of the rings of power that worked 100% perfectly was just that niche of the magic rings that worked so perfectly against the men, turning them into ring wraiths. I think that all the other aspects of Sauron's devious plan were a failure. What he succeeded in doing outside of it was defeat and destroy Celebrimbor and all of his people, and he ended up destroying the Númenóreans eventually with the power of the One Ring, and that was the worst of his damage, I think. But in the end, overall, I would just say that if Sauron's plan had worked perfectly, he would have gotten the dwarves and the elves completely ensnared, and he did not get them ensnared.
All right, here's some recent posts from people involved in Lord of the Rings. Here's a picture of Kaya Scodelario, who's potentially playing Arwen's mother, which makes Arwen's mother a very, very important character, just based on the stature of the actor. We can expect that this character. So if she's flying from London to New Zealand, that is a 27-hour flight. You know what's not 27 hours? London to Canada. That's not 27 hours. Sorry. We got another post. Markella Kavanagh is an actress who we know not much about, but she was one of the first official announcements. Markella Kavanagh, you should be following her on Instagram. Here is a post. Now, the interesting thing about this is a much more mature, older photo than we've ever seen of Markella Kavanagh. Every picture, if you look at all the old posts or posts about her casting in Lord of the Rings, she is young and blonde. So this is a huge visual difference look. And so if we're thinking about Galadriel's mother, played by Kaya Scodelario, and a brunette, and we have another actress here who might be an elvish. She's got the cheekbones and the build of an elvish, an elf, and she again has the brunette hair. So we've got that going on. Here's a couple hobbits because they love hanging out. And then we have another birthday from a couple actors, Sophia Nonviti and Megan Richards. Again, they're looking older than the press photos that we had been provided by Amazon. So the cast has been in quarantine together. The cast has bonded together. the end of the world is here with COVID, and here's the Lord of the Rings cast cooped up in New Zealand, making bonds. I think we have an all-star cast on our hands of the like that we haven't seen since the Lord of the Rings. Cliff, everything I'm seeing and hearing, the cast has bonded so well, and anyone joining the cast is walking into a family.
They are. They've made themselves a little miniature family, because that's what a cast and the crew has to do when they're working together on a long, long production shoot. And they're working all those crazy long hours over weeks and weeks and weeks.
That's right.
Sometimes really weird elements, sometimes out in the terrain, out in the wilderness, or in the fierceness of the elements. You don't know who's a good teammate until you've been working with them that closely, and you work with them that long, and then you know who a good teammate is. So that's an essential survival skill, I believe, when these actors are working in these conditions.
Who is
responding to the YouTube chat, where Gungshi is asking, is this confirmed or just a rumor about Kaya S?
It is. It is not confirmed, and officially Amazon has not confirmed anything since they announced that thing over a year ago. And we know that people involved, people shown in the announcement video, are no longer with the project, including Tom Shippey, including John Howe. So, and I think more people in that video are not involved. And I wouldn't be surprised if that video gets deleted from the internet pretty soon. So, screen capture it, save it. Is this official? Amazon is being completely silent. Nothing will be official. Nothing will ever be official. Nothing was official during the New Line days. Until it was.
The last official thing we have from Amazon, their Instagram, is just pictures of the map. And did they actually put up a picture of the cast so far? Right. And there was a big press release a long time ago, and that's about it. That's about all we have from them, officially from them.
Yeah.
It's true. Wow. Someone else is asking, is this show going to be fantasy Breaking Bad?
I think that's what they want. So, as someone in the chat said, Markella Kavanagh, is this Isildur's wife?
There's no mention of. I'd have to go look to see if Isildur's wife is mentioned.
He has children, so we know he has a wife.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think some of these characters are only mentioned as a single bullet point on a table of names. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Sometimes we have no other details at all. Let me look this up for you. Okay, this will take me one second. Thank you, Google.
And in other news, Cliff, I wanted to give a shout out to.
I guess her name was Amandil. Her name was Amandil.
And then say that again.
Amandil. Amandil. Okay. Yes, her name is Amandil. I just found her.
Cliff, the other thing I wanted to mention before, as we start to wrap up, happy birthday to so many people, including Billy Boyd. What a wonderful supporter of the One Ring over the years. Cliff, I believe one of the last times we saw Billy Boyd was at Dragon Con, which happens to be happening this week virtually. Dragon Con is happening online, and the One Ring is part of Dragon Con in a big way. We have actors from Lord of the Rings and Hobbit that will be available for personal Skypes and personal Zooms and screenshot photo ops. Like, we've got Stephen Hunter, Bomber himself, is going to be part of our Dragon Con festivities. You'll be able to book some time with him, ask him anything you want. He is very opinionated, and he's very well intentioned. And we've got so many other things. Cliff, the other thing
I
that
said it wrong. I was completely wrong when I said Amandil was the name of Isildur's wife. I had a mistake, and that's because sometimes reading is a challenge for me when I'm hosting a live show at the same time as reading.
That's right.
Sometimes it's just a challenge.
So
no,
we know he has a wife. The other thing that you can do at DragonCon this week, we're going to try to schedule a watch along, a fellowship, and we thought it'd be fun to get everybody in the same chat room so we can all kind of like put the movie on and kind of chat amongst ourselves and make it feel like a virtual theater without showing the movie because we don't have the rights. But everyone, come on, you guys all own the movie. So there's a lot to do with DragonCon. Stay tuned. We're going to post all the info later this week because DragonCon starts this weekend. And it is one of the most fun conventions, and it is one of the most gutting to be canceled in the time of COVID because it is such a party. But congratulations to Billy Boyd. Happy birthday. Also, congratulations to Orlando Bloom, who just had another child. Orlando Bloom and Katy Perry welcomed their first child together. Her name is Daisy. Daisy Bloom is officially her name. So Orlando is a new papa, and Billy Boyd had a birthday just a couple days later. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just, the cast loves each other, and they've loved each other through the years, and they continue to love each other. We met up with Orlando Bloom last year at Comic-Con. Again, talk about conventions that we regret missing. Last year at Comic-Con, Orlando Bloom showed up to an event, and there was Kelly Rice, the Happy Hobbit herself, who went viral with that video of Orlando and Lee Pace and Evangeline Lilly watching Kelly's reaction video to the trailer. Remember, they did their own reaction? Orlando and Kelly Rice,
I do remember that,
finally met face to face at Comic-Con last year. Finally, after all these years.
Congratulations to Orlando again on the great arrival to his family. That's awesome. Hold on, I have something to show you. It's in the back pages of the Return of the King. Let me show you. Hold on.
Okay. And guys, while we're at it,
some people thought that might have just been a fluke or a trend. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think Twitter. What people are realizing now is that there is a wealth of
Chadwick Boseman.
And a market.
There's a wealth and there's a market of stories.
Is that how we're going to end our show this week?
You know, when you leave out a great part of what has made this nation, you know, all of the contributions, you're also leaving out a lot of great stories.
Yeah.
There are a lot of really, really cool things that could be, you know, learned and loved by an audience. And people are starting to realize, like, oh man, I didn't even know that existed. Like, let's tell that story.
Cliff, that was a great way to kind of close out the show with Chadwick Boseman. What an incredible loss. He was just one of the best actors, you know, and I was reminded that, you know, they said Lord of the Rings might not have a chance of Best Picture because it was a fantasy movie. And there was a lot of debate going into the Oscars, you know, will Lord of the Rings win Best Picture because it's just a fantasy movie. And then we got to the same exact debates when Black Panther was nominated for Best Picture, and everyone said, will it really win? Will it really win? Because it's a comic book movie. It deserved to win.
Yes.
And it lost to Viggo Mortensen's Green Books. And I think I think everybody involved in film and viewers who have seen both movies can agree that Green Book should not have taken the Best Picture Oscar. And it just reminded me how close Return of the King did not win Best Picture and get that clean sweep.
We are broadcasting live, and yes, I actually have, you know, hindsight is 2020, and I have a lot of agreement with you on that. As much as I enjoyed Green Book at the time when I saw it, I realize now with hindsight that it is not is really not close to the cultural high watermark and the level of cinematic importance and the statement of the necessary statement of culture that was happening in the world at the time, and the Academy missed the boat entirely. Or you might just say the aging white voters who are the major old voting bloc of the Academy, they missed the boat entirely. Don't you agree? Yes, and I know, I'm glad our audience is still here with us on YouTube. You know, I was furiously looking in the back of the appendices, Gondor and the heirs of Anarion. So,
are you still
yeah,
hung up on this woman's name? Like, we'll find it later. We'll have another
no, I'm
discussion
actually,
about
I just wanted to
Isildur's
say that
but I appreciate everybody joining us for Torn Tuesday. We're here every week. We're going on 6 years. We've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes. All of them are on our YouTube and Facebook, and we've done cast reunions, and we've done crew reunions, and we've done Oscar reunions, and we've done watch-alongs, and we hope you enjoyed the most recent watch-alongs with Doug Adams and Jim Ware. I learned so much of the Hobbit movies, and those watch-alongs of the Hobbit movies brought a newfound respect for those movies. And in fact, this weekend, when the Hobbit movies were on TV, on TBS and TNT, I ended up, and AMC, I ended up sticking around and watching them because I heard things that I hadn't recognized before because of those watch-alongs. So, you know, at the end of the day, we're all fans, and we want to find new ways to appreciate Tolkien's work, and we want to find new ways of appreciating the movies and the books and the cartoons and the literature and the research and the scholarship, you know, and our if you haven't seen our Comic-Con panel, San Diego Comic-Con panel with what's his name? I'm blanking. Sorry. It's been a long day.
Oh, you mean with John Garth?
With John Garth. We've had so many amazing conversations with so many amazing people during quarantine, and we're happy that you're here with us every week, and I appreciate you guys. And we're going to keep bringing you the news and the Green Dragon gossip every week. And so that was the latest update. Again, reminder.
That's a lot of great updates.
We've got Kaya Scodelario, possibly the biggest actor so far, potentially involved in the Lord of the Rings show as Arwen's mother. We have our first Dwarven king in Dylan Smith.
Yes.
And we have more brunette elves, potentially, with Markella Kavanagh. And there's so much more that we'll go into next week because I've got more posts and more rumors and more Green Dragon gossip.
And we will have much more. And I want to say, yes, thank you to our friends in the YouTube chat. I agree. I don't think Isildur's wife is mentioned anywhere. So I'm gonna keep furiously researching and see if I can find anything in the old history of Middle Earth.
You know what? The chat room.
We'll have more to talk about on Tuesday.
Cliff, the chat room is betting me $1 that Kaya Scodelario is not involved in Lord of the Rings. I will take that bet. I will take that bet.
Are you taking the bet?
I'm taking the bet. $1. I have $1. I don't have $1 on me. I have my rent check ready, but I don't have $1 on me. I'll take that $1 bet that Kaya Scodelario is involved in Lord of the Rings.
I tell you what, it is. They've been begging you for an hour to take that bet, and I'm glad you're taking it.
And you know what, Cliff?
Take that bet, dude.
Cliff, you're the odds maker. I pay you. I'll pay you the $1 if I'm wrong. But so far, I haven't been wrong.
Okay.
Tom Shippey was off the project. John Howe is off the project, and I will put $5. I will put $5 additional that Russell Crowe is also involved in this show. That's Torn Tuesday for this week, September 1st. It's a new month. Cliff, it's great to see you. I'm glad we coordinated, not on purpose, and I love these shirts. You guys enjoy Dragon Con. We got so much planned for Dragon Con. Look at the Dragon Con Tolkien content. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you guys for joining us as always. This is another week of mischief and rumor, and I will also go with those odds that Russell Crowe is probably secretly involved in this Amazon series. But it is also problematic and weird that we know that Tom Shippey and now evidently, John Howe is working at home, and he's not even working on the show in New Zealand. So things look weird, but we don't know what's happening yet. I guess we'll find out more. And when we find out, we will find out together. Thank you for being with us every Tuesday. Come here, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Come to theonering.net for your daily dose. Oh, well, your weekly dose. It's Torn Tuesday. Until then, you can follow me online at QuickBeam2000 on Instagram and Twitter and social media. You can follow our platform at TheOneRingNet. Take good care of yourselves. And remember, hashtag heroes wear masks. I've got lots of great new masks I'm going to be wearing this week. And we'll talk to you guys. Stay safe. And we'll see you next week. Until then, I guess I would say vaya con huevos, but, Adult Swim beat me to that. So I'll just say, buenas noches y buena suerte.
Hashtag
good night and good luck.
Fidelity to Tolkien. Here's John Howe.
Yes. Hashtag fidelity to
Malgré l'époque où l'on vit, par toutes sortes de choses du quotidien, il y a quand même un besoin fondamental d'ancrer sa réflexion dans l'histoire et dans la culture. Et ça, c'est ce qui m'inspire plus largement. Je crois que les choses que l'on ne connaît pas sont les plus intéressantes, forcément, puisqu'on ne les connaît pas encore. Et puis, c'est plein de potentiel, c'est plein de décisions à prendre, c'est plein de choses à maîtriser. Et ça, c'est très excitant. Je crois que c'est le propre de l'artiste visuel, c'est d'être en quête permanente de quelque chose de neuf. Alors, soit c'est du neuf qui vient de soi, ou bien c'est du neuf qui vient aussi du monde. Et là, le monde entier, donc l'histoire entière du monde, est à disposition. Et c'est extraordinaire.